Oops. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Taekwondo. I appreciate you for taking your time and effort. Welcome to Taekwondo Live. So what happened just now is that I have a new trailer, and for some reason it did not go live, or it didn't just automatically go to the next level. But hey, welcome to the show. Welcome to Taekwondo. My name is Petra, and of course we together as producers are going to talk about some really cool stuff. And today I think it's really cool because we have an ATEM day. So we're going to talk about the ATEM switchers, and that is a monthly thing that comes back every single time. So every month we will have at least one ATEM specific show, and maybe even also a video, and of course, like I said earlier on, we'll have a bi-monthly about vMix and a bi-monthly about audio, and then the rest is all free format. Let's check it out, what we want to see. Of course, we also have the Q&A sessions. That is the first Saturday of the month, and I have already a lot of information lined up for the next Q&A session, because it's not only Q&A, we're also going to use it a little bit of as a gig report. I already had 2 gigs the last couple of weeks, and a third is coming also. So by the end of this month, we have at least 3 gigs that we can talk about, which is absolutely unbelievably cool. But before I start to the show and we're going to talk about the ATEM, I just wanted to quickly say hi to a few people that have been joining us live. That is, for example, of course, MT, who has a lot of nice icons. Really appreciate you for taking the time to be here on time, and all of the time. I also see Raoul is also very early today. Welcome, Raoul. Appreciate you for taking the time and effort, of course, here. I see you guys are talking to each other. Amori is also in the house. I hope that I don't butcher your name, but good evening to you as well. I appreciate you for taking the time. I did see your question about your YouTube channel. Please let me know what the YouTube channel is about, and if it's related to video productions, I'm totally fine to just give you a quick shout out. That's okay. But if it's about something else, then of course I want to keep this channel focused towards video and audio productions. So that's the reason why I'm asking that. Bill, welcome all the way from the Windy City. Appreciate you for taking the time, of course, on your Saturday afternoon in Windy City, and a really nice city to be at. I've been there before. Absolutely fantastic. Then there was a lot of information about not seeing the sun for days and days and days, and about snow. Here in the Netherlands, it has been a little bit colder than but the last couple of weeks. So I think that is normal for the time of year, to be honest. However, snow is not my cup of tea. I rather have sun, and we did actually have some sun today, which is great. But of course, it was still very, very cold, nevertheless. Raoul says I'm at 22 degrees Celsius. A beautiful clear day. That is fantastic. Grace MT is also talking about all kinds of weather stuff. Gray skies sound better than snow. We've got 3 to 4 snowflakes here last week, but it felt boring, so they went away. Yeah, I totally agree. And also, I see Eric is also in the house, and Amori says perfect pronunciation. Thank you so much. And if I talk to you I'm talking about you and I'm butchering your name, sorry for that. Please let me know how to pronounce it correctly moving forward. If you're, by the way, new to the channel and you're still lurking around a little bit, watching to see what's going on, please say that you're new so that I can say hi to you and make you part of our producer community. So indeed, welcome guys, welcome to Taekwondo Live every Saturday at 7 p.m. Central European Time. Today we're going to talk about the ATEM switchers, and this time around I decided to not have a fully produced show because I actually want to invite you to participate with the story at hand. Is that I want to help people that are interested in purchasing an ATEM switcher to identify what ATEM switcher is right for you. And that's quite a challenge because there are a plethora of different ATEM switchers. But before I talk about the ATEM switchers in general, in specific gear terms, let's talk about a little bit about the ATEM, what it is, why should you think about it. So what is an ATEM? So an ATEM switcher is a hardware-based switcher. So yes, there are switchers that you can run on your laptop or on your PC. A few of my favorites are vMix. Actually, I'm using vMix also to produce this show. I really love that piece of software because it is, if you don't forget to automate the hell of it, like I did today, it will automatically start things and do a lot for you without the need of you checking things out. So, for example, typically you will see my name coming in, and maybe also information on that you need to subscribe to the channel and like the channel. And of course, if you like this content really a lot, then of course you can always just have like a super chat, for example. I mean, you can automate that fully within vMix. You can do also a little bit in ATEM, but then it's a little bit different because it's really a hardware-based switcher. So why should you care about that? Well, especially for me, at least, if I look at why I chose for hardware-based switchers, is really reliability. Typically, they're doing one thing and one thing right, so that means that they're doing it really, really well. So they're reliable. I do have one occasion that it didn't work, and that's from last week. So we're going to talk about that briefly, but it might be my own fault. And the second thing is that, so reliability is one. The second is delay. And what I mean by delay is that you don't see it, but if I do this, it takes about a second for me to see that on my screen below. So that means that before you see it, it's already a few seconds old. And that is not a problem during a live stream like this one. But where it is a problem is when you are willing to, also show some videos on local screens like I did last week. And you don't want to have that delay. You want to really have it as real time as humanly possible, so that people do not see that it's delayed. And that is where the ATEM, in my opinion, really shines. Apart from that, is also a small component in a ecosystem that is quite huge. Ecosystem on hardware level, it is by Blackmagic, but Blackmagic also has other different components like a Filter Studio, like a HyperDeck, and that's all connected and combined, and it talks to each other. It's really great, but it also is powerful in the sense that you can also build all kinds of macros that do a lot for you in the code itself, and you can also control it by, for example, the Stream Deck, which I have in front of me, or Companion, or whatever. So you have a lot of functionality at that as well. Let me check if there are some questions before I really jump into the gear that there are. So that's a little bit roughly about the ATEM in more generic terms. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the ATEM switchers in general. And what I'm going to do is that I will I want to invite you guys to join the discussion, to say what you think, if you agree with me, if you don't agree with me. Also, please say that as well, because again, my aim of this hour roughly is so that if somebody watches this video in hindsight, that he or she has a good idea on what he or she should buy moving forward. All right. Let me see. TVJ says, I just run across campus to fix a vMix issue where the shortcut was not working. Yep, that happens all over the place. MT says, always the switcher depends on your needs and the infrastructure you are in. use for the setup. I totally agree with that statement. Robert, welcome, Robert. Which Mac is best to control an ATEM switcher? A MacBook Air M2, an iPad, or a regular MacBook Pro? Let's talk about that. That's a good question. Actually, I can control it with my M2 MacBook Air, so that's an idea. Rob, welcome, Rob. I love ATEM. Let's see if I still have the right one. I'm pretty sure you have the right one, Rob. And Eric says, no doubt you saved today. Right. All right, so let's talk about a little bit about the ATEM switchers and what you can buy. So I'll show you first a generic overview, and then I will boil down into a little bit more of a detail. Okay, so this is the Blackmagic website, and actually on the products page. So if you click on products right here, you'll see here the ATEM live production switchers. So these are switchers that are typically used for what it states, live production. So it's not, even though you can, in some cases you can record on it, but not in all cases. So so it's more aimed towards live. So if I click on that, you'll see a few different topics. So these are like desktop related ATEMs. Here you've got 6 of them. Then you've got rack mountable more industrial looking ATEM switchers. And then you've got the big Honey, the 8K Constellation. And you also have panels, and those panels actually are not switchers, but they're basically keyboards on steroids. And we're also gonna briefly touch about those as well. But let's just start with the easiest one, and that is the ATEM Mini range. Okay, so the ATEM Mini range actually really started in 2019. More specifically, September 2019, during IBC in Amsterdam. That's where the original ATEM Mini was released to the public. The unit consisted of 4 inputs. Here you see an example. So 4 HDMI inputs, 1 HDMI output, in Ethernet in and output, and also a USB-C port. And of course also some audio interfaces. And on the screen you see an ATEM Mini Pro, but that was not the first one. Really the first one was the ATEM Mini. And that was really a very toned down ATEM Mini, really meant for live streaming only. So it was a very great application, so that you could switch between 4 cameras, or 4 inputs, I should say. For example, you can have one camera that is pointing to you, like I have right here in front of me. Actually, this camera would be a perfect camera to do that. This is a Sony a6100. And next to that, you can have the second camera, for example, for a laptop to show, like I am doing right now, a computer screen. The only thing is that what I'm doing at the moment, what you see is that I actually have also a little bit of a branding going on with that red to purple gradient. However, that is not possible on the ATEM Mini. So it's really a picture like for example, let me give you an example. So let's go here like so. And then what you can do on the ATEM is that you can state, okay, I want to have my camera, and this is, and then it goes like this, for example, very small. And you can then choose if it's on this side, or it's there, or it's there, or it's there. So that's basically all that you can do right there. But it is something that is very interesting for some people. Hence, I still think it has added value for a lot of people. So what kind of use cases can you do this with? So the ATEM Mini, I mean the original ATEM Mini, is fantastic for YouTubers that just want to have like two cameras. So one camera here, one camera as a top down to show what they're doing. And a computer screen, and then they just feed that information into their laptop, which is running, for example, OBS, which is a free software switcher, and then just they add some graphics, and that's where they stream from. That is the ATEM Mini, and I think that is a good starting point for a lot of people still, because it's also quite inexpensive if you compare it to other functionalities that you have. Also, if you so that's a YouTuber, but also if you are, for example, in a corporate environment, and for example. Myself, for example, I work for a company where I maybe want to present, I don't know, some architecture or something. And so I just show a full screen of the architecture, and people can still see me. I can maybe even point to some locations that I find very relevant for the stakeholders. And that makes it a little bit more interesting, but also it adds to clarity for the people that are on the other side of that Microsoft Teams or Zoom call, so that less, let's say, noise is on the line, for example, etc., etc. So that is really interesting, so to speak. So that might be a good reason. I'm looking in my notes. Another one, and that's actually one that we actually use every single week on the Sunday, is that we have two cameras in the church, in the church here in the city that I live in. And we just switch between those two cameras. We manually perform some focus and make sure that we have a nice shot. And then we just go to that camera 2, for example, or camera 1. And we also can, on the same device, maybe add or audio, so volume, more volume, less volume, etc. So that is extremely easy to do on the original ATEM Mini. So that is that. Now I have to admit that the original ATEM Mini, and to my a bit of an unfortunate side effect, is that it's no longer available on the website. So that means that it's still around. You can still purchase it, but it's not officially anymore, sold by Blackmagic. So get it when you can, because it's quite inexpensive. We're talking about roughly 300 euros, and you're golden from a YouTube perspective, for example. Any questions so far or remarks on this topic? Let me check. We're talking still about vMix. For a small show, I think vMix is all what you need. I think, yeah, I agree with that statement. However, it also means that you need to be tech savvy. If you look at YouTube, or sorry, if you look at the screen of vMix, I can imagine that some people feel like very unfamiliar with all of the buttons, etc. So it has a steep learning curve. However, the ATEM by itself is quite easy to understand for a lot of people. Eric says, the ATEM Mini launched a revolution, that's for sure. I totally agree with that statement. In 2019, when I first saw the original ATEM Mini, I was like blown away. It's like, how can this be so cheap? And how is it possible that every single input has built-in scalers, which is a technical term that it basically doesn't really matter what kind of screen you put into, or what kind of camera or what kind of laptop you put into the ATEM. Most cases, it will just do a lot of conversion for you, and it will work out of the box, which is, I was flabbergasted by that, because before that particular unit, it was only the really expensive ATEMs, the 3,000 euro up, that actually had built in what they call scalers. M2 says the first ATEM Mini, I presume that you mean, is very basic, but it gets the job done. I agree. Oh, thanks Niels for checking that out. It seems that it's even less than what I thought. So for 180 euros, let's say 200 euro or dollars, you can purchase an ATEM Mini, and it will help you for sure as a nice starting point for a lot of people out there. And again, specifically tailored towards corporate presentations and YouTube presentations where recording is not at all very important. Moving on, I think that what is important to note now is that the ATEM Mini, of course, it has multiple different ones. So let's go to the next one. So let's go down and let's show these three. So I'll start left below here on the left hand side, then I'm going to the right hand side, and then I'm going to go up. So these are the three that are currently still in use. And let's start with the ATEM Mini Pro. What is the added value of the ATEM Mini Pro? So again, for a YouTuber, what it adds for you, I would state, is more control. What I mean by more control is twofold. You can see on a separate screen, what they call a multi-view, all of the cameras in one go. So where on the ATEM Mini you could not see that. So basically you needed to inherently know what the camera is showing. But within the ATEM Mini Pro, you can actually see on one screen, oh, camera 1 shows this, camera 2 shows this, camera 3 this, and camera 4 that. But it also can do another thing, and that is that it's able to record the program out, which means that the end result of you switching, that will be recorded to a USB drive, for example. So you just put in a USB-C to USB drive, and then that will be something that you can use to maybe cut issues out of it and then republish it for later. And that's really a strong benefit, especially if you're a YouTuber and you want to make sure that that if you went live, like myself, for example. So like I said last time, is that I will go live, and occasionally I will use the live show to cut down a 10-minute segment that is aimed towards people that cannot wait for an hour's worth of information, but they only need those 10 minutes to basically do the same. So that helps me with that. So I can just cut it down, and that's it. So that is the ATEM Mini Pro with the recording of the end result. You can, of course, also stream directly from the system by just hitting the stream button. And what is really cool about the ATEM Mini Pro is that it actually contains also memory that is inside of the box. So if you have prepared, for example, a picture that you want to use as a starting point or an end point, you can actually use the media player to on your laptop save that. You can save your settings fully, and then you can just remove the power. You can go to your location. You can switch the system on. You can put in your Ethernet port, and you can hit the stream button because the stream key is still there, for example, and boom, you're done. That is not available on the ATEM Mini, but it is available on the ATEM Mini Pro, which is very interesting. Why? Because a lot of people don't understand the complexity of a computer. If you can remove that complexity fully and you just say, hey, you have to push this button and that button to stop it, then everybody's golden. So I really personally like the ATEM Mini Pro for that reason. That is really something that you can use. Also, of course, for the corporate, it's still the same thing. You can record your whole presentation and just maybe cut it out, cut things out to make it nice and snappy, and maybe use it, for example, for, I don't know, a learning training, a training or whatever. For other colleagues, that is also a possibility that you have. So that was the ATEM Mini Pro that I had in mind for you. So again, I think that they're really close to each other, but you will see that the more the more powerful that the ATEM will become, the more functionality you get, the bigger the production can become. Amari says that for more around about 300 euros, you can also buy an ATEM Mini Pro, which is of course really awesome. That's a very nice price. Yeah, so indeed, so it started with 500 euros and it then went down to 300 euros, and that's basically, it is replacing the ATEM Mini, the original ATEM Mini. George, can you compare the vMix with Mimo Live? Mimo runs on a Mac, but vMix is not. Thanks. I don't know Mimo Live. I will have to verify that, George, but that's indeed an interesting one for a later video, not today. Thanks a lot, George, for that, and welcome, by the way. Then let's talk about that ATEM Mini Extreme. Let's just not talk about the Pro ISO yet. Let's talk about the Mini Extreme first. Basically, what the Extreme does is that it increased the amount of video inputs quite dramatically. You went from 4 to 8 inputs, and that is really cool. The reason why that's really cool is that you can actually use a few of them for bringing in, for example, graphics. For example, you can, for example, if you have the Ultra Studio, and vMix on a computer, you can actually put a key and a fill signal on channel 7 and 8, and then you have transparency on top of your video, which means that you can have animated lower thirds. You can run videos. It becomes a really powerful video switcher. Actually, I would state that the ATEM Mini Extreme is one of the best that the current which is the current offering of the Blackmagic, is the ATEM Mini Extreme, where, of course, and I purposely didn't talk about the ISO one yet, is that both the ATEM Mini Extreme and the ATEM Mini Pro both have also an ISO model. What is the difference between those two is that with the ISO models, you will get a recording on every single input. So on the ATEM Mini Pro, you will have 4 inputs that are recorded separately, and a 5th for the program out. So that is 5 recordings, and that is really cool, because if you have a paid gig, or you have a gig that you really want to make sure that if you have recorded it, that you can reuse it for other purposes, then this is a lifesaver for you, because nobody, I repeat, nobody can switch a live show without any error. That is just simply not possible. So because of that fact, it is really great that you can go back to your recording after the fact, maybe tweak it a little bit. Oh, you made a mistake, just tweak it a little bit, and because of that, you will have a fantastic recorded show at the end side. What I forgot to mention with the ATEM Mini Extreme and Extreme ISO is that apart from those 8 channels that you have as input, you also have 2 channels as output, which is fantastic, because now you can have the multi-view, which is that matrix where you can see all the cameras, right? But you can, in the same time, you can also have a program out that shows the real end result of your system. And next to that, you have not 1 USB-C, but you have 2 USB-Cs. So that means that you can do simultaneously a recording on a drive, and in parallel, you can also use it as a webcam, which I typically do, again, for Microsoft Teams and Zoom calls. So you can have both at the same time. A very, very powerful setup, the ATEM Mini Extreme. And you can see also that it has a plethora of buttons. Personally, I would not suggest that this is something that somebody should just buy because it is so powerful. I would really say that if you need the flexibility of multiple channels, and you really need the possibility of recording separate tracks, then go for the ATEM Mini Extreme and the Pro ISO. That otherwise, in my opinion, it does not make sense. So indeed, the Pro ISO and the Extreme ISO, if you have paid gigs and you want to have a recording so that you can just cut down or change it a little bit in hindsight if something goes wrong. Checking my. I was prepared. Yeah, that's about it. Okay, so somebody is lying. I'm a flawless switcher. No, you're not. No, but I'm not saying that everybody is really worse or something, and sometimes you also have happy switches, of course. But I think that nobody is perfect on this area, and that's also totally fine. Graham says, I just wish that the Extreme ISO would detect when there's nothing plugged into an input and not record that. These blank recorders take a lot of space. I totally agree with that statement. It is what it is. I think that they just need to make it simple for everybody. But what I do like, again, is that, and I didn't tell you that, is that if you have DaVinci Resolve, and that is a free download, by the way, if you like, then you can just download that footage, or actually just put it onto your Mac or on your Windows PC, double-click the project that has been saved by the ATEM Mini, and then you have everything in sync on your system, on your DaVinci Resolve, and you can just tweak it from the get-go, which is unbelievably fantastic. Amuri says, what really messes me up is switching while being the show. Well, look at me. I'm literally doing the same thing at the moment. So that's really funny. So yeah. So that's also, by the way, that's also the reason why for one-person shows I actually would recommend to go with, for example, vMix, because it makes it easier for you because you can automate a lot. However, I do think that for large productions, I would typically go for the hardware versions, to be honest, just because I don't trust computers. All right. Let me check if I haven't forgotten anything. I don't think so. No, I think that we can go back and go back to the screen. Let me show you that right there. And then let's go here to live production. So we talked about these, the ATEM Mini, the Pro ISO, but we didn't really talk about the ATEM Mini SDI, sorry, the ATEM SDI, ATEM SDI Pro ISO, and SDI Pro Extreme ISO. And basically, I can be very, very quick about those. These are 100% the same products that I just talked about, where the ATEM SDI Pro ISO is the same as the ATEM Mini Pro ISO, and the ATEM SDI Extreme ISO is the same as the ATEM Mini Extreme ISO. The only thing is that it does not have HDMI ports, but it has SDI ports. And this is where, it's only interesting to take these machines if you already own SDI-based products. For example, if you have professional PTZ cameras, or you have professional cameras, and you need to run long distance cables like 10 meters, 20 meters, 15 meters, then definitely check out the ATEM SDI Extreme or the Pro ISO. I mean, these are really cool setup. By the way, this is the back of my car. That's the Fiat 500 electric. So funny still. But this is a very, very promising setup. And here you see that the only change is basically that it now does not have HDMI ports, but SDI ports. That's the only difference that it has. So longer cables, professional graded cables. So really important if you need those are long running setup. And also if you need to combine it with other professional graded applications, like for example HyperDex, then this is of course also a good reason to invest in this one. If you own a Constellation HD, then also I would suggest to have a look at the SDI Pro ISO or the SDI Extreme ISO, because, well, where the ATEM Mini has built-in recording on every input, and I'm talking about the ATEM Mini Pro ISO, Extreme ISO, or the SDI Extreme ISO and SDI Pro ISO, the Constellation HDs do not have built-in recording. I repeat, does not have built-in recording. So this is an interesting and in comparison, a cheap version to have ISO recording on those systems. I'm saying brackets because they're not cheap, I know, but they're less expensive than, for example, buying a HyperDeck. Which boils me down to the Constellation systems. Before I go into the Constellation systems, let's check what you guys have been up to lately on the chat, because I don't want to go too fast, of course. By the way, I love all the interaction that is going on. It's almost so much that I need to start to ask you to add the Q in front of it if there's a question to me. Let me check if there is a question that I need to react to. No. Checking your chats at the moment. All right, talked about that. Graham, the DaVinci Resolve project with the ISO files are useful. Yep, I agree with that statement. DVJ says, when I switch on $150,000 switcher, I'm pretty good. I haven't done it in 5 years. How big is that switcher? Amori says, I currently run a mix of OBS for generic graphics and stuff, and an ATEM Mini Pro to do the streaming with Companion as automation. That's a very good setup that you have there, Amori. I think that's a very good automation that you have there. I'm always a little bit like, why are you using the ATEM Mini Pro for streaming and not OBS? That's a little bit of a question that I have right there. I don't trust the computer. Yeah, well, I would state the same. And Amori, I think that this is a good one. So indeed, if you, one thing that's one of the other reason why you want to invest in hardware is that you want to divide the load, where if you have a vMix computer, then basically you almost always have a one-man show or one-person show. That is basically with software in a laptop. Yes, I know that there are ways of dividing the load, but in all fairness, it's always just one system, right? Where if you have hardware, you can actually say, okay, the switcher is done by The switching is done by A, maybe replayed by B, maybe somebody else that is doing some PTZ controls, and then somebody else is doing some production kind of stuff like telling what is going on next, and somebody else is doing the audio, for example. If I look at what I did last week, I actually had audio, switcher, and PTZ control all in my hands. But of course, that's way too much to make it perfect. So you need to have more people with bigger shows, in my opinion. And that's where hardware really shines. Bill says, I did the Mini Pro, the Extreme Pro, and now I'm waiting. What are you waiting for? I have a feeling that I know what it is, but we're going to talk about that at the end of the show. Raul also has a reaction. I think if you go for an ATEM Mini, an Extreme ISO SDI, or HDMI, will future-proof for small production. The rest, I don't know. I think that I would now always recommend to go with an ISO model. Then I'm pretty sure that you're good to go for the future, because I would state that for a lot of productions, you can work with just two cameras. Of course, there are more complex, but a lot can be done with two cameras. So that is the reason why I think that that's already future-proof for smaller productions. I would not go with just a Pro, even though I do have the Pro and I'm really happy with it. Extremely happy with it. But the Extreme ISO is the one that I'm really looking at for being future-proof. TVJ says, our switchers is Sony with 64 inputs and 16 outputs and 4 MEs. That's a lot. That's not my switcher, but I'm going to talk about my switcher in just a bit. Amory, using the ATEM Mini Pro for streaming saves lots of resources on my laptop. Yep. That is a good call. Yep. That makes sense. Okay. So that was the ATEM Mini. Let's talk about the new range, which is the Constellation. And actually, if you look at the Constellation, these are all rack mountable units. You've got the 1ME, the 2ME, and the 4ME, and basically those are the major changes. And ME stands for mix effect. And basically, to make it very easy on ourselves, is that if you have a 2ME, you basically have two switchers in one box. If you have a 4ME, you have 4 switchers in one box, where all of the inputs are shared with all of those mixers, but it really is helpful in some cases. For example, I own the ATEM 2ME Constellation HD, which is the center one. That is the one that I've chosen for myself. Not this big one, but the 2ME. Where is it? The middle one right here. This one has 20 inputs and 12 outputs. And it also has 2 MEs. So 2 switchers, basically. And why do I need 2 switchers and not only one? That is that if I need to produce a show for an online audience and a separate show for a local audience, an audience in a room, then those two cannot be the same. What do I mean by that? Well, if you are on location and you see a person in real life, and that person is presenting a slide, for example, a presentation, you just show the full slide on that on the beamer or projector, whatever you want to call it, and then that person is just talking about that slide. But at home, you want to see them both, if possible, at the same time, because you'll see the content of the slide that person is talking about, but you can also see that person waving his hand or her hand and talking a little bit and making it more animated and interesting to watch. And sometimes, of course, you also want to zoom into the presentation if there's a lot of text on it. But basically, that's roughly what you want to do. And if there are, for example, questions in the room, you want to then show a video of that person in the room talking to the presenter, asking questions, etc., so that it becomes a more integral part that everybody wants to be part of it. Next to that, and what I also do with the same 2ME switcher is that if there's somebody talking on Teams, I'm actually not showing the slide anymore on the screen in the room. I'm actually showing the Teams output of that person speaking, so that the people that are in the room are actually seeing that person on the screen talking to the presenter and explaining their question, so that it becomes a more of an integrated part, so that it becomes interesting to talk to each other, etc., etc. So that's the reason why that 2ME is so extremely important. I have to admit that the 2ME did not work perfectly last week. It did crash on me, which was a little bit awkward. But looking at on the Discord that I'm part of, it might be that it's related to not enough, not the possibility to remove heat off the system. So I need to most likely invest in either adding fans or either having more natural flow of air to make that to prevent that from working in the future. Because apart from that, this is a really strong and perfect system. Hey, I see Kermit and Scooter are both here at the moment. Let me check. Amore says, my next purchase is the 2ME. Yeah, that's the one that I also own, by the way. That's what I call stressful. That was definitely very stressful. Wait a second. We're talking about this one. Last year, I run a 2-day conference alone, 4 cameras, 16 microphones. Whew. 2 wireless mics, 2 Teams guests, 3 presentations and a video, all out of the Teams. My audio guy got sick, so he needed to do everything himself. Oh, that's a lot of work. Oof. Nah, that's not for me. Eric says it's scatter day at TechCon. Yes, it definitely is. So yeah, a few things about the constellations. So I think that if you run big conferences, big presentations, also if you want to show videos locally on the screen, I would definitely go with either the Constellation 2ME or the Constellation 4ME. I would not buy the 1ME. Why? It doesn't give a lot of added value compared to, for example, the Extreme that we just talked about. Because it doesn't have built-in streaming, it does not have built-in recording. It's quite easy, and it doesn't have and it only has 10 inputs. So it's really not a big jump for a lot of people. But the 2ME, of course, with 20 inputs and 12 outputs that are individually routable, that is really strong. So that is definitely a good reason to purchase a 2ME. Also on a 2ME, no streaming, no recording, so that needs to be handled externally. But with 12 outputs and 20 inputs, of course, you can use a few of those outputs to record the videos on, for example, either a hyperdeck or a separate Extreme, so that it's then recorded. And that's basically also what I would like to do in the future as well. And then you've got the 4ME, and that is overkill galore. If you really need all of the power that you need, then just go for it. But that's really for big productions. These are all, by the way, until now, all HD models, not 4K. As a matter of fact, if you look at the website of Blackmagic, They do have 4K models, but I would strongly advise against purchasing them at the moment. So let me check. These are the ones that I'm talking about. The 1ME Production Studio 4K, 2ME and 4ME. I would not recommend doing that because I'm very, very sure that these will be on the nomination to be replaced. I actually already thought that they would be replaced, but I think that maybe this year they will be replaced. I would not purchase it anymore. I would just skip them for now. So I'm not going to talk about them at all because they're old models. They've been around for a couple of years. I don't trust that they will be here for much longer. What I think that will be here for much longer is the Constellation 8K, right? This one. Basically, it looks a lot like the Constellation HD models that I had, but then you are able to run HD, 4K, and 8K, and it also has SuperSource. And I forgot about the SuperSource to talk about SuperSource. The SuperSource is an extremely important functionality in either the Extreme ISO, the SDI Extreme ISO, in the Extreme Mini Extreme ISO, and in the 2ME and 4ME Constellation HDs. Those are all having SuperSource, and that is a very, very good functionality because you can create really nice picture-in-pictures like you're seeing right now. By the way, this could have easily been a SuperSource with the exception of the white border that you see, because that is only available on the Constellation 8K. The Constellation 8K that can have a border. The others can't, but you can show two screens like this, and you can make it work. You can also change it on the fly. It's really good, and you can also, if you're using, for example, tools like Mix Effect on your iPad, or you can use a Stream Deck with companion software. You can also have all kinds of animations going from left to right and doing a very nice setup. I really strongly think that SuperSource is an extremely underrated piece of technology, and I always use it these days. I think it's fantastic. As a matter of fact, even though this is what you see now is not SuperSource, it is very close to what I would state is SuperSource. So yes. There's a good there are some reactions on mix minus, so I'm just using this one from Eric. Indeed, mix minus on Madi is very important. So Madi is of course an audio protocol which is only available on the 4ME Constellation HD and on the Constellation 8K. It's not available on other systems, and it does, because of the digital nature, allows you a lot of functionality if it comes to audio processing. I personally use a Behringer X32 rack with a X-Touch control surface, and I can do a mix minus right there, but it is an external setup to the ATEM mixer, so it is possible, but you do need to have added complexity there to make it work. On the other hand, even though it's possible on the 4ME without external applications, it's quite difficult to do it without a external control surface for your for your audio, because that is not really easy to do that way. So and for audio, I do think that it's good always to have textile faders. It makes it easier to really identify how loud that you want to have something, etc. All right. So yeah, so we're nearing the end. So these are the Constellation systems. We already talked about them quite a lot. Again, if you look at what I personally own, I'm just going to tell you up front is that I started with the original ATEM Mini, which is not anymore on the website. Been a very big fan of it, still using it every single Sunday during the church service because it's great for what it is. I also have the ATEM Mini Pro, actually used that last week for a corporate event that I've done. Still use the Extreme ISO, the ATEM Mini Extreme ISO for smaller confined setups where I'm not responsible for either providing sound to the local area or not to the screens that are local, but just streaming or recording. Then the ATEM Mini Extreme will do quite nicely. I do not have to bring along the 2ME for that. The Extreme ISO does everything that needs to be done for that kind of product. So that is that. So I do have a ATEM Mini Pro, the ATEM Mini, and ATEM Mini Extreme ISO. I don't have the SDI variants right here, not yet. Also, I am considering the SDI Pro, the SDI Pro ISO, but I think that I'm gonna wait until they become a little bit cheaper before I'm gonna buy one, because yeah, I already have an Extreme ISO and I do have some converters, but of course it does add complexity. And I don't like complexity, especially a lot of converters. So it's quite a hell. And then I've got the ATEM 2ME Constellation HD, and that's my big system. That's the big one. That's where I can run basically everything that I want. So those are the ones that I personally own, and that's also the reason why I think that looking at all the other ones, I can explain a little bit what the possibilities are. I hope that this was helpful for you. If you're new to the ATEM world, at least it gives you a little bit of an idea what kind of products are really good for what. And I think that you will be golden whatever system that you get. So thanks a lot for watching. Also, if you have any questions related to this video after the fact, please go ahead and just add some comments in below so that I can use that for example for the Q&A session, because the Q&A session will be not next week but the week after already. We will be talking during the Q&A session about at least 2 gigs that I've done, which one of them is really extremely big, and the other one is also big, and there will be one that is a little bit smaller, so that it's all over the place this time around. Already 3 gigs within a period of 4 weeks. And next week we're going to talk about vMix again, and we're going to specifically talk about a way to automate some really cool switching or adding some graphics without the need of your hands, which is really interesting and really easy to do, and which also drives home the point that for a one-person show, this is a very good way to do that. So that is for next week. Let me check finally some remarks maybe. I already see that people are going, so that is always good. It was great overview on ATEM switchers. Amori, the mixer, I'm looking for the ATEM, the Behringer X32 rack has doubled the price since last year, so I have to wait. Ooh, yeah, when I bought it was not that expensive, but that's terrible. And Bill says, thanks Petra, really appreciate it. So yeah, that's all that I had in store for you today. I hope that you liked the show. At least we liked it. I see that are they here? Kermit is here. Scooter also? No, Scooter's not here. Scooter's also here. Oh yeah, all of the cats are here, so I have to check my cats. Have a fantastic week, guys. See you next week for a nice VMix special. Have a good one. Good week. Bye bye.